Welcome back. Austin Mayor Steve Adler is joining us this midday for his weekly visit, Mondays with the Mayor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for the invitation back.
So, we want to chat a little bit about last week. The city clerk certified a petition from Unconventional Austin. This petition would require a vote of the people of Austin before any major expansion to the convention center. The council set to discuss this when you guys come back in August. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I'm concerned about it. I mean, I hope it's defeated. It puts at risk some things that are really important. We have identified the ability to have our tourists pay $5 to $10 million a year to help us with homelessness in the city, and that's tied to what we're doing with the convention center. That would be put at risk. We have the ability to get money immediately to help with the music industry, protecting venues and musicians, puts that at risk. But it also is something that I think violates state law. It is another in a series of these actions that I think are done by a few people in the city that are kind of the do-nothings or status quo voices in our city. And quite frankly, this city waited way too long to do what it needed to do on mobility issues, waited way too long on homelessness, waited way too long on housing supply issues. And I think that we're now moving forward on those things. That's what you want government to do. That's why you elected the officers and council people you elected. And I think it's important to let them do their jobs and to slow things down, to require an election on everything that the city does is not the way that cities need to operate. It's not good for a city. So I hope that it gets defeated.
So obviously, you I guess are anticipating it'll go before voters. You don't anticipate the council will adopt this ordinance.
No, I think it's unlikely the council will adopt the ordinance.
Right.
Probably be on the ballot in November, and I hope that people show up. November election when there's no candidates running sometimes doesn't have very many people show up, and it's going to be important that a lot of people show up to vote against these propositions.
Well, then now we're also going to have a couple of constitutional amendments, so don't worry, we'll tell you about all of that before November. One of the things you mentioned, though, is that some of this goes towards homelessness, and there has been a lot of pushback on, the relaxed homeless ordinances. What do you really want to tell people who see this as a safety concern?
Well, first I would say that nobody wants to have camping or sitting or lying all over our city, and certainly that's not what the council did. But we need better and safer places for people that are experiencing homelessness to be able to go. The courts are telling us that you can't tell someone they can't be in a particular place if you can't tell them where it is that they should be. So we made sure that we strengthened and were emphatic to protect against anybody who is creating a public safety risk or a public health hazard. But that third group of people that aren't presenting a risk or a hazard, that are dealing with hidden demons perhaps the rest of us can't see, the right place for them is not in jail or to be arrested. It's actually to help them. What's happening in our city right now is we're spending millions and millions of taxpayer dollars with our police just moving these people around our city. It's kind of like a shell game. And we've got to stop that. And I just can't do that anymore. We've got to actually deal with the underlying problem. We actually have to find better and safer places for these folks.
Well, let me ask you, these ordinances, particularly the camping, the sitting in line, some might say they were put in place for a reason because perhaps it was causing a problem. So why then undo them without necessarily having a place for them to go already set up?
Well, we're going to be setting that up in August, but the courts are telling us that these laws we had that could enable a policeman to arrest or give someone a ticket to move them were not proper, because you can't ask someone to do that if you can't tell them where to go. And in our city, we don't have an answer to that question. So what happens is we just keep moving people around. When the police show up, they threaten somebody with arrest or a ticket. That person experiencing homelessness moves, but where do they move to? They move to the business down the street, or they move to the underpass near the neighborhood. So all we're doing is spending millions and millions of taxpayer dollars moving people around, creating a challenge wherever those folks go. And it would be much better for us to take that millions and millions of dollars and actually spend it on finding a place for these folks to be able to build exit strategies so they can get into homes.
So when you say millions of dollars, in terms of police time or in terms of court costs because they get tickets, in terms of what?
In all of those things. You know, we give tickets to people. We gave 18,000 tickets out for this between 2014 and 2016, and it did nothing. As you might imagine, a lot of those folks don't show up next Thursday to pay their ticket price, and so they get then a bench warrant issued for their arrest, which makes it then harder for them to get a job and to get an apartment. So we build yet another burden in. The last few years we haven't issued as many tickets. We're just threatening tickets to get somebody to move. Most of those folks will move, but they just move to somewhere else. And then the police can go over there and move them and just keep following them around, moving them around. And what we have seen in cities where this has just gotten out of control, like Los Angeles and Seattle, is they say, their advice to us, they say, boy, if only we could go back in time and actually deal with the challenge when it was manageable. In Austin, Texas, we have 2,200 people on any given night that are homeless. In Seattle, a city with 200,000 fewer people than we have, they have 6 times as many folks experiencing homelessness. In Austin, we went up by 4% in our count last year. The national average was 5%. Dallas was 9%. In Los Angeles, the number went up 16%. They have almost 40,000 people that are experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles. And their advice to us is, you have a challenge that is manageable, house those people. Build the shelters, pull them out of the shelters and get them into homes. Give them the support services they need, because you're still at a place where you can manage that challenge. And quite frankly, if we are satisfying ourselves by spending millions of dollars with our police just chasing these folks around the city, we are avoiding doing what we actually have to do to fundamentally solve this challenge. And that's what we have to be focused on.
Well, we certainly will be watching to see how the city goes about trying to solve that. Mayor, we thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.